History is just new people making old mistakes. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is what does a woman want? One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, first make sure that you are not, in fact, just surrounded by unpleasant people. Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. When making a decision of minor importance, I have always found it advantageous to consider all the pros and cons. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. I suppose that romantic love was invented as a brilliant means of seduction. If you don't like a person, it's because they remind you of something you don't like about yourself. We choose not randomly each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. Human life should not be considered as the proper material for wild experiments. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Words and magic were in the beginning one and the same thing, and even today words retain much of their magical power. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Men are more moral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. A woman should soften, but not weaken a man. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. It is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. Life as we find it is too hard for us. It brings us too many pains, disappointments, and impossible tasks. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. At the height of being in love, the boundary between ego and object threatens to melt away. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of that problem, which is capable of driving a person out of his wits. In the small matters trust the mind, in the large ones the heart. Friendship is an art of keeping distance, while love is an art of intimacy. The interpretation of dreams is the road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The goal of all life is death. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water